Ethan stepped off the shuttle and onto the bustling platform of the interstellar hub. Towering structures of metal and crystal glimmered under the distant suns, and alien voices filled the air. He had seen images of the place before, but nothing compared to standing among a crowd of beings from dozens of different worlds. Some had 6 limbs, some moved with gliding wings, and some shimmered as if made of light. It was overwhelming, but Ethan's focus was sharp. He had come here not just as a traveler, but as a participant in a challenge no human had ever dared to face. The aliens laughed when they noticed him. Humans were rare in this sector, and even rarer were humans bold enough to step into their games. Many whispered among themselves, "The human will fail." Ethan ignored them. Failure was not in his mind. The announcement came from the grand stage in the center of the hub. A tall alien with translucent skin and eyes like liquid silver raised its arms. "Welcome, esteemed guests, to the Gala of Champions," it said in a voice that echoed across the platform. "Tonight the greatest wager will be made. The prize, Lyra, the diplomat of the Helion cluster, shall be given to the victor of our trials." Gasps spread through the crowd. Lyra stepped forward herself. Her posture was regal, her eyes calm but alert. She was not small or weak, though by human standards her frame looked delicate. Her kind were trained in combat and diplomacy alike, and she moved with the grace of someone who had mastered both. Yet even she could not escape the laws of her people. Being part of the bet was mandatory. Ethan's gaze met hers for the briefest moment. He saw intelligence, strength, and defiance in her eyes. She was no mere prize. He made a silent promise to himself. No matter what the trial required, he would not treat her as a trophy. The rules were explained. The challenges would test endurance, intelligence, combat skill, and adaptability. Aliens from different worlds would compete, each believing they were superior. Ethan could hear the murmurs around him. Many doubted a human could even survive the first test. He clenched his fists, feeling the familiar thrill of a challenge. The first trial began almost immediately. The contestants were transported to a nearby planet, a world of jagged rocks, dense forests of bioluminescent plants, and unpredictable weather. Ethan had seen environments like this in simulations, but nothing prepared him for the reality. The air was heavy, the sky tinted with strange colors, and creatures moved in the shadows. He kept calm, studying the terrain. His human instincts and survival skills came alive. While some alien competitors relied on sheer strength or energy shields, Ethan relied on observation. He noticed patterns, the way certain plants reacted to movement, the flight paths of predators, the subtle sounds that indicated danger. Lyra followed the competitors, her ship hovering silently above. She observed Ethan closely. He moved with caution but also with determination. He used his small size and agility to his advantage, slipping through tight spaces that larger aliens could not navigate. She found herself impressed despite herself. As night fell, the forest changed. Strange creatures with glowing eyes prowled, and a sudden storm forced everyone to take cover. Ethan found a small cave and used his survival knowledge to create a safe area. He gathered water from a glowing stream and fashioned a crude barrier with rocks. While other competitors struggled or panicked, Ethan stayed focused. The next morning, the challenge intensified. Contestants were required to retrieve rare crystals from a dangerous cliffside. Aliens used wings, energy ropes, or brute force, but many failed or injured themselves. Ethan studied the cliff, noting weak points and footholds. Step by step, he climbed, relying on balance, careful planning, and stamina. Halfway up, a rock shifted beneath him. He fell but grabbed a ledge just in time, his heart racing. Below, some aliens jeered, assuming he would fall, but Ethan smiled faintly. Humans adapted quickly. He found another path, less obvious but safer, and continued his climb. By the time he reached the top, only a few competitors remained. Ethan's persistence earned quiet respect, even from some of the alien spectators. Lyra watched from above, a mixture of curiosity and disbelief in her eyes. She had never seen a human handle danger like this. Most humans in her experience were delicate, untrained, and frightened of the unknown. Ethan was none of those things. He was clever, brave, and resourceful. She found herself reevaluating everything she thought she knew about his kind. The final test of the day was a confrontation with a predator native to the planet, a massive creature with thick armor-like skin and jaws that could crush bone. Many competitors panicked or tried to fight directly. Ethan analyzed the beast. He noticed its movements were slow and predictable when it focused on one target. Using this knowledge, he lured it into a trap, using rocks and fallen trees to restrain its movement. The creature thrashed but could not reach him. By the end of the first day, Ethan had not only survived but excelled. Some of the alien spectators nodded in approval. Even Lyra, who rarely displayed emotion, allowed a small hint of respect to show. Ethan had proven that humans were more than fragile creatures. They had ingenuity, courage, and resilience. That night, as the competitors rested, Ethan and Lyra shared a brief moment. She descended from her ship, approaching cautiously. "You are unlike any human I have met," she said softly. "Most would have fallen by now." Ethan smiled. "I didn't come here to fail, and I don't see anyone as a prize." His words carried sincerity. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. She had always been controlled by laws and expectations, never given a choice in her own fate. Yet here was a human who treated her as a person. The second day's trial was announced, a duel against a champion alien warrior, someone known for their unmatched combat skill. Ethan's heart beat faster. The task seemed impossible. His opponents were massive, trained for centuries, and wielded weapons of energy and metal. Yet he did not panic. He studied his opponents carefully, learning their habits and weaknesses. The duel began. Ethan dodged the first strike using agility and quick reflexes. His opponent swung again, heavier this time, aiming to overwhelm him. Ethan used the environment, sliding under a low barrier, bouncing off a rock and striking at weak points the alien had not protected. Lyra watched, her hands gripping the railing of her ship. Ethan moved with a combination of speed, intelligence, and courage that she had never expected from a human. Each dodge and counterattack showed not just survival instinct but calculated skill. He was not the strongest, but he was clever, and that made all the difference. As the duel reached its climax, Ethan feigned a stumble, luring the champion forward. With a quick maneuver, he disarmed the alien and pinned them without causing lasting harm. The crowd gasped. A human had bested one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Ethan stood, breathing heavily but victorious. The arena fell silent for a moment, then erupted in whispers. Some aliens were angry, others impressed. Lyra's eyes shone with surprise and admiration. She descended from her ship fully, now standing beside Ethan. "You are remarkable," she said quietly. "I misjudged your kind. Humans. You are not what I expected." Ethan looked at her and smiled. "And you are stronger than anyone could have predicted. Not just in battle, but in spirit." The organizers announced that Ethan had completed the first phase of the trials. More challenges awaited, each designed to test intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Ethan and Lyra knew the path ahead would be harder. But for the first time, Lyra felt a sense of choice, not because the laws allowed it, but because she saw in Ethan a partner, a human who respected her as an equal. As night fell on the alien world, Ethan sat near a small fire he had built, Lyra beside him. They shared stories of their worlds, their experiences, and their hopes. The stars above seemed endless, a reminder of the vastness of space and the small but significant place humans could occupy in it. Ethan did not see Lyra as a prize. He saw a friend, a companion, and perhaps something more. And Lyra, who had been taught to obey and endure, began to feel the first stirrings of choice, of freedom, and of connection. The next day would bring the final duel of this stage, a test that would decide who moved forward in the bet. Ethan knew it would be dangerous, but he also knew that humanity's greatest strength was not strength itself. It was courage, creativity, and the willingness to defy expectation. He looked at Lyra, and she returned his gaze. No words were needed. They understood each other. Together they would face the trials ahead, and whatever the outcome, the galaxy would remember that a human had stood among legends and proven that courage and ingenuity could change everything. Jake stepped into the cafe with a tired sigh. The hum of the spaceport outside faded the moment he crossed the threshold. The cafe was crowded, filled with creatures of all shapes and sizes, each sipping drinks he couldn't even begin to name. Smoke from exotic teas curled lazily into the air, blending with the faint scent of fried protein from nearby stalls. He loved this place, not just for the drinks, but for the way it made him feel. Like he was part of something bigger, a small point of calm in the galaxy's constant chaos. He moved toward the counter, his boots clanging lightly on the metal floor. The place was alive with movement. Robots wheeled trays, aliens chattered in a dozen languages, and humans, like him, navigated the crowd as best they could. Then he saw her. She stood behind the counter, her shimmering violet skin catching the soft light from overhead. Her eyes, a pale silver, scanned the cafe nervously. Her long hair like tendrils shifted as she moved, betraying her tension. She looked elegant and graceful, but something about her posture spoke of inexperience. She was new, Jake guessed. He smiled to himself. He loved seeing someone struggle and then succeed. It reminded him of his own first days in the galaxy. Jake approached the counter. "Hey," he said casually, leaning on it. "First time working here?" The alien blinked at him, a soft hum escaping her lips. "Yes," she said, her voice melodic but tight with stress. "I just started. I'm learning the orders," Jake nodded. "Don't worry. It can be overwhelming at first. I've seen worse." She gave a small smile, but her attention was quickly pulled to a tray she was trying to balance. The tray held an impossible assortment of drinks, glowing liquids in delicate glasses, some floating slightly above the tray with anti-grav stabilization, others bubbling as if alive. She moved carefully, but the tray wobbled dangerously. Jake frowned. "Careful," he warned. "You've got a lot there." Before she could respond, her knees buckled. She let out a tiny gasp and collapsed onto the floor with the tray tipping over, spilling colorful drinks across the polished metal. The cafe erupted in chaos. Patrons shouted, trying to avoid the splashes. Robotic servers zoomed in to clean up, but the damage was already done. Jake rushed forward, his instincts kicking in. He crouched beside her, checking for injuries. Hey, are you okay?" he asked, gently shaking her shoulder. She blinked up at him, her silver eyes wide. I'm fine," she whispered, her voice shaky. "I just fainted." Jake raised an eyebrow. Fainted? He had seen humans faint before, usually from exhaustion or fear, but this seemed different. Her breathing was steady now, and her color returned quickly. He realized that her species might have a fainting response under stress. He helped her sit up, steadying her as she regained her composure. "You know," he said with a teasing grin, "that was impressive. Most aliens couldn't even handle one tray like that, and you passed out, but then you came back. That's something." She looked down, embarrassed, brushing her hands on her apron. "I didn't mean to make a mess." Jake shook his head. "It's okay, really. Everyone has a first day. I've spilled drinks worse than that." She finally smiled, a small, relieved curve of her lips. "Thank you," she said softly. I want to do better." Jake studied her carefully. There was something about her, something beyond the fainting and nervousness. He had seen many aliens work in cafes, spaceports, and bars, but rarely someone with this kind of potential. He leaned closer. "Tell me something," he said, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Can you do it again?" She looked confused. "Do it again?" Jake nodded, gesturing to the tray. "Balance all those drinks at once. I want to see if it was a fluke." Her eyes widened. I don't know if I should." "It's risky," Jake chuckled. "Life's full of risks. Come on, show me." Reluctantly, she nodded. Jake watched as she picked up a new tray. This one had fewer drinks, simpler ones, but her posture changed. Her eyes narrowed slightly, her hands steady. She focused entirely on the tray. For a moment, it looked like nothing special, just a waitress carrying drinks. But then, she added more glasses, adjusted the floating ones with subtle gestures, and moved through the crowded cafe with uncanny precision. Patrons stopped to stare. Robots paused mid-clean. The cafe manager, a rotund alien with 3 eyes, blinked in disbelief. Every drink stayed perfectly balanced. Lyra, the alien waitress, moved as if she were part of the tray, almost merging with it. Her fainting earlier now seemed like a minor hiccup in what was clearly an extraordinary talent. Jake couldn't hide his astonishment. "Wait, you can do it again." "Already?" he whispered to himself, grinning. She caught his gaze and blushed under her shimmering skin. I can," she admitted softly. "I didn't want anyone to see." Jake shook his head in admiration. "That's amazing. Most humans can't do that. Most aliens can't. You're something else." She looked down again, self-conscious. "I'm not sure what this means. I just follow instructions." Jake smiled. "It means you've got talent. Real talent. The kind that doesn't come around every day. You just fainted once, and that was your reset button. Now look at you." Perfect balance. The cafe erupted in applause as she returned to the counter. The patrons cheered, impressed not just with the drinks but with her composure under pressure. Even the manager approached, eyes wide. That was incredible, Lyra, he said, his voice shaking slightly. I've never seen anyone, any species, handle trays like that. She bowed her head humbly. Thank you, sir. Jake leaned against the counter, watching her. He realized that this skill could be more than just for serving drinks. In the right hands, it could be useful for much bigger challenges. Space missions, dangerous explorations, even combat situations. She had reflexes and precision that rivaled humans trained in the toughest environments. Lyra, he said quietly, catching her attention. Do you know what this means? She shook her head. It means you're stronger than you think. Not just physically, but mentally. You can handle pressure better than anyone I know. And one day you might use that skill for something way bigger than a cafe. She looked at him, silver eyes curious, and a small spark of excitement appeared. Something bigger? She asked, a hint of hope in her voice. Jake nodded. Yes, something bigger. You've got potential and I want to help you see it. If you want, she hesitated, then slowly nodded. I want that. The cafe settled down again with the normal chatter resuming. But Jake and Lyra stayed near the counter talking quietly. He asked her about her training, her species, her abilities. She told him about fainting responses, hyper-focus skills, and the way her body adapted to extreme stress. He listened carefully, fascinated. He realized she was not just another alien waitress. She was something extraordinary. And he had a feeling that this was only the beginning. As the day turned into evening, Jake left the cafe with a promise to return. He walked through the spaceport, thinking about what adventures might lie ahead. If Lyra could handle a crowded cafe with dozens of unstable drinks, he thought, she could handle almost anything. And maybe, just maybe together, they could face challenges that no one else in the galaxy could. He glanced back once at the glowing lights of the cafe and smiled. The fainting waitress had shown him more courage and skill in one day than most beings displayed in a lifetime. And deep down, he knew this was only the start of an incredible journey.